Welcome to the advisory deck. We're out on location today. I'll introduce our special guest in just a moment, but I'm joined again by James McGill from Chatham Capital Exchange. How are you, James?
I'm good, thanks, Troy.
Good to hear. So we decided we'd come and have a conversation with a good friend and a terrific business owner as well, Lachlan Jeffries from the Jeffries Compost Mulch organisation. How are you, Lachlan?
Great, Troy.
Very good to hear. Thank you.
Good to meet you, James.
Welcome.
Thank you for having us here. For those of you who don't know Jeffries Compost Mulch, here's the details down the bottom. Check the business out. But we thought we'd come and have a conversation with Lachlan, I suppose, about the nature of a really interesting business, a family business, and some of the dynamics that are involved with that as well. Lachlan, for those who don't know Jeffries, do you give us a 30-second sort of thumbnail of what you guys do?
Jeffries' purpose is about maximising value from organic resource. So a lot of this material traditionally in our lives went to landfill, and now we're all in this thing about circular economy, and there's shows like War and Waste that are just great and those kind of things. I suppose we focus on the value of the end than necessarily the recycling component. So out of that, as you mentioned, we make compost soil mulch. We also make fertiliser, and we've just started a biochar plant, which I can't go into in 30 seconds, which is pretty exciting as well. The Jeffries family actually arrived in South Australia in 1842, and we, like when everyone arrived in those days, just hit the beach and ran, and our family farmed not far from our current operation at Buckland Park. So, for all of those years, we've always had our hands in the soil, and the soil we're pretty passionate about soil. So.
Fantastic. So fourth generation now, right?
Multi, I think when you sort of look back, because we now, as you know, at our Buckland Park operation, we've got a farming component. We've grown potatoes and carrots. We grow about 1,000 tonne of fodder currently, so which is really fascinating sort of business and that sort of farming side of things when we talk about weather and those sorts of impacts. So multi-generational South Australian family business. So.
Terrific. One of the things, and let's talk about the business, one of the fascinating things that I've always been interested in with your business model is you've got a business that's so heavily reliant on weather, right? Most agricultural enterprises are, but your inputs, the green waste that you collect from clients, and your outputs as well, when do clients need compost and mulch? How have you learnt running the business over the years to try and find some sense of stability when there's such variability naturally in what it is you do from both sides?
It's funny because you talked about that sort of this direct conversation, because you're in the business every day. That's all you know. You don't think it's anything different. I do excel, as you know, working with me at complexity. I'm very good at creating complexity. So it's simplicity is more of the challenge. So I suppose weather is a facet. Probably the bigger facet is actually being a recycling business, and so it's balancing the supply and the demand. So we're not like a traditional manufacturer that if you have successful sales, big orders, you just ring up your suppliers and send in more containers. And that's why we refer to maximising value of the resource. It's a finite resource. Sure, there are bits that we can maybe get some more and tweak it. The market potential for that resource is multiple times bigger than how much resource in a state like South Australia. So it's about finding markets that see value in the products that you do, but value this year, next year, and for multiple years, and then having a business model that can create around that. Everyone thinks their business is unique. The uniqueness with our business is that we have two significant income streams. We actually get paid we derive an income from our raw materials. So and then we sell the end product as well. Everyone goes, "Oh, that's great. How do you get into that business?" Our aim is that our costs are less than that combined income. Yes. That's the challenge, because it's very capital intensive business. So the incoming are quite often very long-term contracts, and the outgoing can be more transactional. So it's just constantly sort of balancing. Again, being a recycler, everything that comes in needs to have a home. So we go through periods where we've got more stuff coming in than the markets may have their own periods that we can't see. It's just, you just get better at aligning and planning and adapting and those kind of things, because as a small business, you've got to be opportunistic.
Yes.
But then as a multi-generational business, you also got to sort of throw your side out long term. So it's that yin and yang sort of stuff.
It's a fascinating business, and so many businesses, to Lachlan's point, worry just about the variability in the sales cycle, but to have to worry about it on the other side too, right?
Yeah, I think that every business model has its nuances, and you've spoken about one that's pretty interesting there. What do you see from a financial perspective in a family business? Are you making different decisions because you are a family business than you would if you were a business that perhaps were owned by a number of different shareholders? In a family business, you've got different dynamics.
Yeah. Look, again, I can only say from my experience, am I making different? I haven't, I have worked elsewhere, but not for very long. So I don't, I can only sort of say from that perspective. So we would be making significant decisions that would be different to what you'd say a traditional business in that sense. So yeah, it's very much alignment with values and who you like to do business with. What business gets you out of bed in the morning to do. For instance, we are a South Australian business. We have product that does go into Victoria, New South Wales. One strategy could be we could expand our sort of concept, but we like to live in it. We like to visit other places. You can't at the moment, but we like to visit other places. But we like myself and my brother, we like to live in Adelaide, and so you make decisions that you would do differently, and we definitely have made decisions that might, if you were more financially prudent, a discipline you might not have made. However, it's just so hard to, it's so hard. Like that's one of our values is innovate, and we do grapple with that a lot because there's too much is. Then you're at the bleeding edge than the leading edge, but it's in our DNA.
Do you feel, on the family business theme, do you feel as a family, as the group, I think you've got a structure that is like a normal business, you've got a hierarchy and so forth. Do you feel the pressure as a family business to make sure that the next generation have something to come into? So a lot of business leaders, they go, well, I'm here for a job, and if I'm here for 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, that's great. But then I'll go and do something else afterwards. And from what you're describing, whether it's the third, fourth, fifth generation, the idea is that there'll be something for the next group to come along to. And that in itself has challenges because families get bigger over time, right? So you have more people who might want to come in. Do you feel that pressure in addition to running the business?
No. I think you probably feel a bit of pressure of the responsibility of what the generations before you have done. You do. It's not a startup. It's got its own issues. That startup has its range of issues, and family business has definitely its range of uniques. And so you probably feel that pressure, but that's your pressure. Like the generation before us has put no pressure on us, at all. But you do that. So. Whereas for the future, no, I don't have any, so both Marty, my brother and I are probably pretty strong on that it's not that the kids are expected to come here. If anything, we're both probably a bit like, get out and see the world. And, if I look at, also multi-generational, our mum and dad were the sole owners of the business, which I assume will be more complex as that broadens out. So you need to have lots of conversations. You need to be open and transparent and manage all of those kind of things. I just grew up with Dad, and the tractor was just like a shadow. And even though Mum had a rule which I disagreed with at the time, that we couldn't go straight from school to the family business. It was a good rule, but I didn't agree with it at the time. We had to either go to university or work elsewhere, and school and I weren't, connected. So university was an option. So I started a motor mechanic apprenticeship, but just gradually wore Mum down. And so I worked. You work in a family business from the day you're born, but actually got paid at an early age. Whereas my brother took the university path and joined at around 30. So I just see we both joined in our own way, and we both wanted to do it, versus sort of like there's nothing else, like there's no other thing, and I'll just end up there, then you're stuck there, or the pressure of having to be there. So I think it's really important that it doesn't matter what skill, especially, that they want to do it for the right reasons.
Yeah. It's interesting, and I know you've taken, I suppose, external counsel to balance family decision making over the years. You've had, external independent chairs of your board over parent advisors as well. What have you learnt about getting that right when you're having to balance, family leadership with outsider advice?
Yeah, again, like, so fortunate, like our dad is you've met him, Troy, he's not the person in the office or the boardroom, he's the person on the machine. No, he's the person under the machine, when it's broken and everyone's trying to, he's there digging that around. So I suppose as our business was growing and I came in, it wasn't necessarily that was my career path, there was a void there. And Dad was just exceptional, that really early on, he was open to bringing in, because I was pretty young, and I learnt from him his skills, but that I'd learnt that, and there was diminishing returns, I suppose, to allow others. So we found a sort of a board, and it was just one external chair. Very we're talking 25, 30 years ago, so very early in my career. There, I'm only 25, but so yeah, very very early in my career, and I suppose now, as I'm sort of older and a bit of a control freak, I do honour Dad how well he allowed that to come in, and because I think it's really important, as you need to find the right people that you can work with and those kind of things. So we started with one, and then evolved, and so we've had up to 3 or 4 external, directors on our board, and there's 3 family members. So we had more. We went through a big program, like our development of our Buckland Park site was significant. So as a small business, whether some people might take it, well, that's not a traditional role of the board. So we use board potentially to sort of, support like executive functions that we just can't afford to have full time. In that sense. So you will work through that. We are trying at the moment, but it won't surprise me if we go back to different phase works. We are trying at the moment with our board. We've got 2 externals. Our chair actually lives in Melbourne, so we haven't seen him for a long time. But that's also he's from Adelaide, but it's also we're in a process of trying to get our board to be more strategic at the moment, whereas for the previous cycle, our chair, who was great for 8 years, actually did a day a week in the business. So it was very hard then to sort of have, we very easily, which we were always very easy in board discussions, getting down into talking about the nitty gritty. So, but that's just what we needed at the time. So we got the advantage of that horsepower. So I suppose what I encourage, thinking about that sort of question is, busy people like to help busy people, and they like to help. People like to help people who want to be helped. We pay all of our external board, but we pay them because I think that's the right thing to do. It honours that. We want to grow our business, so it sort of sets our business as a bit of a habit that's a part of what we need to do. Do we pay them 90% of what they normally earn, or 10% of what they probably would have normally earned? It's at the 10% end, and they'll all say that it's not full time, but they just love to, get that in, have that opportunity. They honour that we open our, we're very transparent. We listen to them. We don't do everything they say, but we're more often not. So because it's pointless them coming in and giving you some thoughts, and you just don't listen to anything. So I think I just encourage people to, we had, which I think probably in the time, Paul Crawford is, MD of the CMB group, over 1,000, so one of the busier people around, and I didn't know him, just rang him up and asked him. He was our chair for 5 years, and I used to think when he's in board meetings, I think, God, we get more time with him. And we're still really great friends now, so you then got that ongoing mentoring and connection. And I can't speak for him, but I think he got a lot of fun and learned a lot of skills about, getting in and seeing our business as well. So just, don't be afraid to go and ask. You need to have boundaries, like you do, before those conversations. Paul was said, I don't want to come and work in a business that's looking to sell.
No.
So, we're not. So, you have those conversations up front and honour their time, but don't be afraid that people like to help people.
Absolutely.
You spoke just before about changing the board focus to being more strategic. Cycles.
How does it take that?
Is that because you've got aspirations to go wherever you are at the moment? You've got aspirations then to grow beyond what you're doing now, and the boards drive strategies normally around growth and expansion.
Yeah, definitely. That's where you get out of bed. It's staying the same. And it's not growth for growth's sake. It's like you like the challenge, and so again, our purpose is to create value. And so we have a big hairy audacious goal, and it's a bit complicated, so I won't go through to it, but it makes sense to us. And it's to 10 times that value sort of over a generation. So I think it's 2045 or something like that. We've 10 times the value we create from that material now. So but we looked at where were we 25 years ago? We're not 10 times, but we're not 2 times. So so we have, and so we make decisions based on what we don't do and what we do about growing. So we're again, it's not just that growth. It's about taking our purpose and using it to getting better.
I think one of the fascinating things about your business is that value that you create is not just necessarily about what you're doing to the product, but it's the education of the wider community as well. And I know it's one of the challenges that you have with the quality of the input that you get, what people put in their green bins, for example. How are you navigating that challenge? Because I know how much time and money you guys have spent in innovation to try and create amazing technologies which remove impurities and contaminants as well. But bigger than that, it's getting people in a mindset where they help do that better, but it has other value as well. How are you sort of dealing with that?
Yeah, so we're not educators. So how we look at it is that I have a photo in my office which is taken in the early 90s, and it was the first curbside contract, I think it was in Australia, so curbside green organics recycling contract in Australia. It was the city of Salisbury. And so this is before the rest of the planet just doesn't even know what this is about, let alone the rest of Adelaide. And I suppose I well up a bit now when you're at a cafe and you hear people talking about what was on War on Waste, or what it's now. It's down to stand. We're all but it takes that time to change. So we see that we're a cog in a whole range of cogs. So at home we can make decisions. We can make decisions on what we buy. We can make decisions on what we put in what bin and all of those kind of things. So that's a cog. And then there's our local government council provides us with a service, and there's a regulator. Then there's a person who collects it, because we don't do a lot of the collection. So there's all of these cogs. So we very much look at our role in our cog, but you've got to influence and make people aware, and you've got to talk and share and all of those kind of things. So we look at the cog. We're not educators. What's the most activity we get in our website questions and social media platforms? Can I put this in that bin? Our marketing coordinator's a kitty litter expert. Which one could go in and which one can't. So we have a bit of fun with that, and I suppose we love that it's now mainstream conversation. I was only talking yesterday. We do a lot of work with educators. There's Keith Sabb, which everyone would know in South Australia is a great communicator and educator about litter and recycling and those kind of things. And we very much see that we're in transition at the moment. So there are those of us who might wish that we could go to bed tonight and then tomorrow everything just works in that way. And there's those who just not want to sort of change. We're in a transition, and we've just got to adapt and be open to that. I tell the team all the time, if it was easy what we did, anyone would be doing it. So we've got to embrace that it's hard. And that's how we can make the business model work, because everyone else goes, you just get to get out of this. Let Jeffries, let Jeffries do it. And that difficulty means that we're masters. In the field, and we can be. And we've talked before. Like people think, composting, and they come out to operation and think straw hats and bowl of dirt and all of that sort of stuff. And we've got mining, food processing. We are, soon to be the biggest biochar manufacturers, which is we're power generators. It's significant, technology and the people we engage in the business, and that's exciting because a lot of these people could work in any fields, but a lot of them it's meeting their purpose to come and do what we do as well.
Yeah.
You spoke before about the big, hairy, audacious goal, and it's great and it's much easier, I think, for a family business to set that because you can talk about the 2045.
Yeah, 2045.
So most, I think we had a discussion a couple of weeks ago about is the 3 strategic plan dead? Going, well, yes, we think it is. The 2045 goal isn't so much about strategic, it's bigger than that, it's longer than that. Do you have a big, hairy, audacious challenge that you're grappling with, that you're trying to figure out how do we solve that?
We've got a filing cabinet full of them.
Right.
Look, the one I'll pick out is what not to do. That's the one. Like we're a business that's just got we're quite vertically integrated, so there's lots going on, and some of us in the business get distracted by shiny lights,
bees,
bees and stuff like that. So that is probably the biggest challenge is what not to do, what to land and maximise before you move on to the next. And we've got a long way to go, but I'm really proud of how we had an opportunity come up this year that was really exciting. It just doesn't fit, and because we've had this discussion beforehand. And in a family business, it's unique because, well, in some families it might not be, but my brother and I really care about each other, so you don't like, that conflict discussion, but if we've had the framework discussion, we all come to it with that sort of thing. So it's sort of, we debated it, but I think we are maturing in that, but we've still got so much noise on that kind of thing, and it's having a framework to do that. Again, getting our board to be more strategic sort of can whack us into line with, back to this.
I was going to ask about that. So it sounds like you do have something as a reference point to say, well, great opportunity, but here's what we've decided that it has to meet this criteria, or it's got to be aligned with these, so you can becomes more about an objective discussion rather than subjective.
So it's this is the issue, not well, I'm passionate about this and you're not, sort of thing. It's okay. That's the lens that we're going to look at it, and that's not just all financial. There's a whole range of other stuff, and we try very hard to be in markets or be in services where there's no one else there. And even if the model might not be great in the initial, but to get in and offer something that no one else is doing, and then collaborate with everyone around it is, Troy knows us, we're big collaborators as a family business, and these are not necessarily joint ventures, but they're just business trading. You provide this part of the service and we do this, and we'll focus on doing that really well, you focus on that. So we try and get into bits where there are either no one else or there's not many others in there, and then master that activity.
Lachlan, there's a pile of gold in what you've just been generously, pile of compost.
More valuable than gold, right?
And super rich in that, though you do have unique aspects to your business, and though a multi-generational family business has its own complexities and nuances, the ideas of finding ways to add greater amounts of value and derive more value from what you're doing, and learning what to say no to and to have a mechanism to do that, right? They're not unique elements to any business, right? Every business is dealing with those kind of things. So, James, any final questions, comments to wrap up?
More organisations should be like yours on a couple of fronts. One, you've got clarity around culture, and you've got clarity around your business model. And so many companies don't have that. They will change depending on how hard business environment is, depending on who the CEO is or someone else is. they keep on changing and evolving. There's this desire that we've got to do something differently and be seen to being active. And I think you're talking about how do we do less, almost be really good at what we're doing, do it really well, but don't try and do everything. And that's rare. It shouldn't be. It's unfortunate, but the businesses that succeed are more like the ones that have the characteristics that you've spoken about. That I'm guessing has been built on multi-generations. And it sounds like it's in pretty good hands. That, you know, that's how you treat the business now. Then talking about 2045 isn't unrealistic.
Yeah, I think if many of our team watch this, they'll be choking on their coffees because we're far from perfect. But there was a little thing that was written many years ago, 42 days in the discipline factory, and so he's really got to work out, and it's an evolution. It's just always getting better and all that sort of stuff, and not beating yourself up, but are you being a better version of what you were yesterday? So, but I think it's just bloody awesome what you guys do, you know, and appreciate what you're doing to share these stories. Because that's how I learn, whether it's YouTube or going to talks or going to sessions or just ringing someone up who don't have a connection. And especially in Adelaide, we're all very fortunate that we generally don't. If we don't know someone, we know someone who knows them. And just people are willing to help people who want to, who are sponges. So encourage people to get out there and do that. But you're playing a key role in that. So thank you.
Well, you've been very generous with your time and your wisdom, and it's a pleasure hearing you talk about what I know. You are so passionate about, an amazing business. I can't think of a better topic or interview to finish 2020 with. Recycling, renewing. Let's get this one out, let's learn from it, and let's build something better from it and derive more value from it next year. Lachlan, thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Cheers,
I hope you and the team, the fifth generation are over there sitting under the Christmas tree, dreaming of what's coming next week. Really appreciate it. James, as always, thank you to you. Thanks for joining us on the advisory deck in 2020. I think this is our last one for the year, so happy Christmas to all of you, and we'll be back on the deck early in January. Cheers.